weekly feed. Josiah Johnson, Head and the Heart, back again with Nats and nature. In a place where we're about to walk through the Iroquois Amphitheater here in Louisville, KY with well, I guess jack-o'-lanterns will be here, but they're not here yet.
There's nothing here yet. But soon this will be a jack-o'-lantern spectacular.
Yeah. Hey man, how's it going? Head and the Heart, was it last year, almost a year ago, you released Let's Be Still. And it's
about a year ago now,
yeah, and it's kind of been a year.
Yeah.
So let's figure out what's happened. Because, let's see, you've been across the heartland of America. You write these heartland songs, I feel like, with the Head and the Heart.
Yeah.
I feel like you've had adequate time to see it all. Has it ever given you that idea on humanity's future at this point? Because I bring this all up, you're a passionate man. And I get this online on Facebook and everything like that. You're a passionate man, and I figure, once you're out there and you're seeing everything, you've got to come away with that with some sense of like, you know what, we're gonna be okay, or nah, I think we're fucked.
Well, it's weird. It's weird because on the one hand, you have the side of people that you see at concerts a lot, where you're connecting with music in a way that there's like a couple thousand other people there that are also connecting with this, and you have this like at the best parts of a concert, like everyone feels like in it together, and connecting, and so that part, or that like capacity to like connect with all these people that come from all these different ways of life that are different than yours is something that definitely makes you want to go like, oh, we're gonna be okay, So that's cool.
But
there's see that.
But what's the flip side of that?
Well, the flip side of that is, you also, I think we're getting to the point where people start looking at us as like things and not people. You know what I mean? And people also can do that, and that at its worst, times 10,000 is like why we have like keeping up with the Kardashians is something that everyone is fixated on. I think you encourage those come together and relate to other people in an honest way, parts of people, and you try and downplay all the other bits. Yeah.
So I'm sure there are at least parts of whether it be America or any part of the world, and we've all had those moments traveling where you run into people and like, man, this exists where I exist. And then you've got to turn around and put the positive spin on that, whatever it is. They could be your fans, they could be just the guy in the the liquor store, I guess. But
yeah.
But along with that,
and more than on the first album, there's a couple songs, and John wrote them, but they're songs that like still like kind of related back to him, and the first album was pretty much all songs that we were writing about ourselves pretty much exclusively, like myopically, and they turned out to have universal implications, you know what I mean? And on this,
which is nice,
which is nice, and which is a beautiful part of music. On this album, there was a couple of songs that John wrote that kind of like started outward, and then got turned back around as he was writing it. But it started like seeing other people, experiences,
being able to use that, which can be dangerous if those other people figure out who the hell you're talking about.
Not specific, not in a negative way.
Right. You spent all this time out on the road. I mean, being on the road, it's hard. Let me take that back. Being at home, not a musician, it's hard enough to keep a relationship going anyway.
Yeah.
Have you really figured out how to be a human being, how to be a person out there, constantly gone, whether it's having a relationship or just trying to have, any kind of normalcy to your life? Because once again, I feel like, the Head and the Heart, you guys are in this really interesting spot right now. Second album's out of the way, you're now, we believe you, you're a band.
Yeah.
You're
totally.
an actual
totally.
thing, right?
That was a thing, it was like, there's a lot of bands that release one album that magically connects, and then you don't know what happens next. But yeah, so agreed.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's weird because I'm in, this relationship that's been in for about a year, and the better that gets, the harder it is to be on the road, you know what I mean? Like the closer and more connected you are at home, the more you like are aware that you can't, that you're not doing that when you're
Right.
on the road. So
And nights are lonely.
I do a good enough job of taking a melatonin or two and passing out before it gets to that dark place most of the time.
But that's a thing like most people don't have to figure out.
Yeah,
you know?
no,
That's
it's
a
not.
thing.
It's not a
like
not
that's
a
not
happy
something
thing.
that comes natural.
No, it's not a happy thing. I don't
Yeah.
think. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think oftentimes we get into this routine, you know, when we're us personally, when we're like checking in, you know, like, hey, how's your day going? How's your day going? You know, and when you're in a band on the road, it's kind of like, oh, well, we, you know, sound checked,
Right.
and then we waited around, and then we played a show,
What's
and then
that
we
here?
had some drinks, and then went. You know, like your days are kind of the same thing over
Yeah.
and over again. So like talking about
There's
how
not a
your
lot
day
of-
went,
right.
it's like there's not a lot of material.
So as you guys kind of wind down, and I guess you're at least getting close to winding down,
Yeah.
you know, on Let's Be Still, it becomes a dangerous spot, I think, for a lot of bands. You can fall into the monotony of album tour, album tour, album tour.
Yeah.
And before you know it, that's all you've done for, you know, 10, 15 years, album tour. I hear about that from bands and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, but it sounds like you guys have some kind of a grip on what you need to do to survive inside as a person.
Well, now, yeah. Well, so we, it's kind of been 4.5 years since we self-released the first album. And pretty much like it's been 4.5 years of like touring on that, or like working to, you know,
Right.
before we were signed and before we were going on crazy
Do you have a
tours,
count
but
of
working
how
on
many
it.
times you've played Lost in My Mind at this point?
Oh man, over 1,000.
It's funny.
But it's been like 4.5 years since we had like
Yeah.
a chunk of time off, and so when we finish up touring at the end of this year, it's pretty much just gonna be take 6 months off to live,
Yeah.
you know, and be writing songs, and like John and I'll get together and work on stuff, and I think we're planning like a handful of things next year where we play like an acoustic show, the two of us, and like use the money from that to like rent an Airbnb that has a piano and like go and write,
Right,
and,
right.
and then like try out those songs at that. But like
The
other
next
than
album
that,
ends up being called whatever the Airbnb was named.
yeah, yeah.
You're gonna wake up at one point though. You're gonna wake up
But-
like a month into it and be like,
Oh no, but that's like, you know, once a month,
Yeah.
and then the other 3 weeks you're home, you know,
Right,
kind of
right.
thing. So ultimately next year we're finally going to like give ourselves a chance to be normal
Yeah.
people who live at home and have girlfriends that actually feel like
like real.
girlfriends.
We'll come to a point though. I mean, I'm only looking at, you know, historically here what bands do, point A to point B to point C. Third album, okay, so you've defined yourself. You could stretch out this one. It becomes almost, I wouldn't say a dangerous part, because I guess every album has the same stakes really, you know, at some point. But it's like, you know, but that's what you do. You know, the bands put out a record. And if it's a hit, you have that. And if the second album either just kind of cements that further, and the third album they say, okay, we don't want to just be this one thing that's not going to be a thing in 5
Yeah.
years, or everybody's going to be tired of it,
Yeah.
or we are, you know.
Yeah. Well, I definitely feel like one nice thing I think about our band is that we have this idea that we will, you know, put out like, you know, 6, 7, 8,
Yeah.
10 albums like until we're old and lumbering around the stage like Neil Young.
I think it's the idea.
You know, and that
sit
might be
down.
like a pipe dream, but it's like it's the goal, and so every album doesn't like have to
Right.
just get bigger and bigger and bigger so much as just like
Sustain you.
wind around and do what
Yeah.
and do what you will. I think this album though will be really good because we want to take more time with it, in the sense that like when we made Let's Be Still, we pretty much like got off the road and we were like, we haven't put out an album in 2.5 years. We've just been touring this whole time. Let's go make another one. And we didn't take any time to write songs. Like we
Right.
took the songs that we had, we like fleshed them out as a band, went into the studio, realized we only had like 7 or 8 actual usable songs, and then like had to spend a bunch of time writing in the studio. But we didn't have any like life experience time.
It becomes the second album, Road album.
Yeah,
the Road album.
Yeah, and so I think we're good enough at writing songs that like there's not a lot of like blatant like road references in there, but there are definitely feelings from being on the road for the most part.
These are completely unfair questions of me to ask you to project on something that isn't even a real thing yet.
I mean, you're but yeah. So I think being able to take some time and live and write about that and not write about being on the road will be a good thing. And then also getting back to like writing together, which we didn't really do on the last album, because it was like, you get off the road and you're like, the last person I want to see is that person I was just on the road with for 3 months.
Let's go hang out at a t-shirt shop again.
So yeah.
Is the styles of music ever a part of the equation, because you guys just by sheer timing became part of the acoustic boom?
Yeah.
You know, and that becomes a thing, and you know that there are trends, and that's not going to be what's in vogue anymore, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I know at some point it really does come down to, as long as you're writing a good song, that should be what the is. But is that ever a thing, where you're like, man, is that gonna it hurt us if that's ever the anti thing?
Yeah.
I mean, we go back and look at, I always pull out the example of Hootie and the Blowfish. 10 million records, diamond, cracked rear view. We can all be embarrassed by it, but everybody owned it at the time, It was one of those things. And then 2 years later, you can't be caught dead with an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
Until it comes back again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think I'm aware of it. I think we're all aware of that. But all of the moves that we've made thus far are more because, like we toured with My Morning Jacket and seeing what those,
a little bit rubs
seeing
off.
The palette, that they're using like rubs off on you. You know what I mean? Like, and you want to pick up an electric guitar and you want to, have it sound more epic than what you'd been doing.
You have that. You like epic. I like epic. I have heard you use this in interviews, and I smile every time I see that.
I'm also from like Southern California. I feel like that's also.
No, I don't mean it as like beat slang or anything like that. But it's like when I think of songs, I mean, you can write an epic song in 2 minutes. You can. But I get this feeling when you're talking about it, it's not exactly what you're talking about right there. It's like you want something that is bigger. Than just background.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think if you don't, I think if it's not like making, well, and that's I guess the way I was gonna say it, if it's not something that's making you kind of like forget where you're at or what's going on in your life for a second, like mid song, then you might have done something wrong. But the funny thing is the way that people listen to music now like makes it even more difficult to like
a bit of a challenge
to pull people in. So it's you're, and myself included, listening to it like in headphones while in transit from place to place.
I mean, I have faith. I have faith. We were talking about faith in humanity earlier. I have faith in a song.
Oh yeah.
That maybe someone's only going to give it 30 seconds at the beginning, and the great part happens 3 minutes into it. But as long as that song exists and other people find it, it will get back to that person.
Oh yeah, I think so. No, I think so too. But I think a lot of times if you set out to make a song that has that, epic sprawling, draw you in quality to it, it might be more of a grower than anything else, which is cool. I like that in a way. I like, there's like tons of albums that you discover years after the fact.
Sure. And not even the albums, but the songs themselves.
Yeah.
Dude, it's great talking to you. And I can't wait until sometime, it sounds like in 2016 maybe, that we can hear from the Head and the Heart again. In the meantime, we're going to get lost in the woods with pumpkins.
Cool.
Thanks.